Morning, family. How important is direction to you? Or is it important at all? And when we're talking about direction, we're saying the course that your life is taking as a whole. A lot of people don't ever really pay it any mind. They just allow the world to push them in different directions and they follow trends without ever sitting down and charting a course for themselves. Now, when you talk about the course of life and sitting down and putting a plan together, that's being intentional. And of course, you know, from 15 minutes of talking to me that I'm all for individuals who plan and they're intentional, because usually those individuals meet with success. Now, sometimes difficulties come up, as they often do, but the majority of time, planning, looking at the best way to approach a situation is often successful. So how did you like the True North episode? Now, that particular episode, it came from a desire in me to once again touch on the topic of having a direction in life, not being aimless, not proceeding through life with reckless abandon. No, it's necessary for us to have some kind of plan. And one of the things that I appreciated and one of the notions that I wanted to bring to the fore was, even at times when the person doesn't quite know what to do, how to proceed, there's always a resource in place. There's always a resource, whether it be a grandfather, whether it be a father, an uncle, maybe an older brother. For young men, you have resources. And then maybe mentors in the community who have taken it upon themselves to try to help the next generation to avoid the mistakes that they may have made. So it's always a resource. You just have to make yourself available. Now, throughout the story, you'll notice that the travelers, the small band of travelers that were trying to get to the town that was through the forest, and they had no idea how to do it. They had no idea which direction to take. And if you saw the story, then you know that they didn't even have enough food to make the journey. So they found themselves in a very, very precarious situation. Not because they were unprepared, but because they simply didn't know. They didn't have any experience in going into the forest and foraging or which way to go based upon the direction of the sun, or they had none of that. They didn't have it. And so it was necessary to enlist the help of David. And David wasn't like most travelers. He was a seasoned navigator. And so David was able to use the skills that he had to get them to the small town that they were looking for. Well, one of the main takeaways from the story is that it's okay to ask for help. You find yourself in, as I mentioned, a precarious situation. You have no way to navigate through the situation. You don't see a way to a clear resolution. Get some help, especially with young men. I know that the world teaches you that you ought to be able to figure things out on your own. You ought to be able to come up with a plan of attack. But now, what I will say is, the reason why I would say that you would need to enlist some help is because the difficulties that a person goes through, the problems that they have, a lot of times those problems could have been avoided if a person had enlisted someone who had experience in that particular situation, because that person will help you to avoid the pitfalls involved, the difficulties that you don't see, the dangers and the perils that exist that could affect your momentum. See, as a young person, based upon the way that you live, you can gather momentum, and that momentum will cause you to be successful and have a wonderful life. right? So you don't want anything to slow down your momentum. You don't want anything to get in your way to cause you to have to slow down or to even have to stop for a brief period of time. You want to continue to be progressing. The man that you were yesterday, you want to be at least 1% better today. That's progression. And so in order to continue to progress, you're going to have to enlist some help. And that's with anybody. That's with anybody. You think about it. A person, they have an illness. They get sick. In order to get better, you have to get some help. You have to involve someone that is aware of the treatments that are available to help you to recover your health. What's the next point? Well, if you notice, one of the travelers, when she initially met David, she was kind of skeptical about whether or not he had the skill involved to get those individuals through the forest to the small town. Well, David wasn't worried. And throughout the story, we emphasized the fact that he wasn't worried. Because really what happens is, if we are telling the truth, David is in his element. You can tell by the way that he's dressed, by the way that he carries himself. This is his element. He has no difficulty with helping these young ones to get to where they need to be, because he's familiar with his tools. He's familiar with navigating in general. So he doesn't have a problem when it comes to those things. So even though one of the travelers, I think it was a young lady, she expressed her skepticism, it didn't bother David any. He knew what to do. He knew how to handle the situations that would become difficult. He knew what the possibility of difficulty would be because he's experienced them. You'll notice that in one line, especially when they're foraging for plants that they can eat, berries that they can eat, David tells the group that his grandfather taught him the plants and the shrubberies, the berries that they could eat that would not make them sick, that would not cause them any difficulty. He knew that from experience because his grandfather taught him. So David was in a situation where he was prepared to face the difficulty because he had been through it before. And see, that's the difference. That's the difference in a young person and maybe an older person who has had some time to live and to experience life. A lot of the things that we've had to go through in order to make it in life, it comes with valuable information in the form of experience. Yeah, we're going back to experience because it makes a difference. And if you expose yourself to those experiences or to the experience that this older person wants to share with you, I guarantee you'll be able to benefit. But then now let's zero in on David's compass, right? Now, really what a compass does is it helps you to orient yourself, right? It keeps you going in the right direction, because at any time you can look down at your compass and figure out where you are, right? And so several times throughout the story, that's exactly what David does. He reorients himself by means of his compass. Now, what does that mean? In a practical way, what does that mean? Well, in your life, do you have a set of beliefs, a set of character traits that you subscribe to that helps you to reorient yourself? Let me give you an example. One of the character traits that I cherish as a man, I've always cherished it because I was taught that it was the proper thing to do by my parents. I've always cherished the character trait of respect. Showing respect to individuals and then behaving in the way where I could get respect from them, right? So in my day-to-day life, that's one of the character traits that I try to exhibit. But now, I said that it was a group or a set of character traits or beliefs that helps you to reorient yourself. So how does respect help me to reorient myself? How does it level set me? Well, a lot of times in dealing with people in general, I've noticed that the more respect or the more respected a person feels when they have an encounter with me, the better our conversations and our interactions are. And when I don't have a good interaction with a person, I have to go back and examine whether or not I showed that person the proper respect. And a lot of times, in situations where I've had a bad encounter with a person, that's been the bottom line. The bottom line has been that they didn't feel respected. So in order to continue to have good relations with those around me, respect is one of those qualities that helps me to reorient myself. It helps me to continue to move in the right direction. It's very important. And I've seen respect take me places that degrees and certifications never could. Showing the proper respect. And so I think that's what I wanted to emphasize when I showed David continually going back to his compass and reorienting himself and making sure that they were moving in the right direction. And so from time to time, that's what we have to do. You and me, we have to do that sometime. Sometimes situations present themselves. They come out of the blue, they're unexpected, and they put you in a position where afterwards you question whether or not you handled that situation in the best way. And that's normal. That's normal. But in continually orienting yourselves in the direction that you want to go, you'll be able to rebound. And then the next time that challenge comes up, because you had, just like David, you had experience in dealing with that particular challenge, now you know what to do. So I think True North was a good piece. I think it was a good piece, and it really helped the person to sit down if you take the time and think about this story, because we never talked about what the fog means. And if you are watching this particular Behind the Pen, please weigh in on it. What does the fog mean in the story? It has a symbolic meaning too. I've given you quite a few of the symbols that I've used, and I've given you the explanation behind them. So what does the fog mean? I look forward to your answers. But whatever it is in life, whatever difficulties you encounter, it's always good to know what's the destination that you're trying to get to. Are you trying to become a better father? Are you trying to become a better sibling? Are you trying to become better spiritually? Whatever your goal is, from time to time, it's necessary for you to stop and think and reorient yourself so that you can get to your goal the fastest way and the safest way possible. And I think that this is an example that we really need to look at and consider and make a part of the way that we approach things, the way that we attack life. Are we setting goals and then tracking the progress of our goals so that we can hold ourselves accountable in regards to whether or not we're able to achieve those goals? See, that's what it was all about. And that's a form of accountability. David, he knew that in order to get to that small town outside of that dense forest, he needed to continue to check his compass. That's accountability. That's accountability. Because he knew that he was accountable to that small group of travelers to get them there because he said he would. And so being a man of his word, David, he was able to get them there successfully. And so in the things that we do, it's the same way. We continue to orient ourselves in the direction that we want to go, and we hope that in the end, things work out the way that they should. And a lot of times they do exactly that. They work out just the way that we want them to. And we're happy as a result because we were able to achieve our goals. Well, as you can see, man, I'm swinging around because I have made it to work. And so we're gonna go in here, man, and see if we can't make another dollar for the day, man. But before you go, I wanted to just share this last story with you, man. And it's something that touched me deeply. As a matter of fact, man, I went to bed thinking about it and I got up this morning thinking about it. It's never a waste of resources to help someone. Now, where the waste comes in is whether or not they appreciate it, but it's never a waste to help someone to have what they need. So, Kira and I went last night. We had a job. We went and we installed a 85-inch television for a man. He was setting up his movie room. And so we were able to assist him with that. And it went well. He was happy. We got paid handsomely for it, actually. And the tip that he gave us was quite a big one. But on the way back, I stopped to get some gas. And after getting my gas, I go into the gas station where Kira already is because she's picking out the snacks that she want to purchase before we get back on the road. And there is this small young lady I noticed on the left side, and on the right side, the gentleman who is the cashier is checking other people out. You know, he's allowing them to buy the things that they found in the store as well as gas. And so he's continuing to check them out. And so I'm kind of puzzled as to what's going on with the young lady that's on the left. Well, after he's checked out everybody in line on the right, I go up to see, and there is this young lady, and she has several nickels and dimes. And she's counting out these nickels and these dimes in an effort to come up with $11 for gas. And even though I espouse being composed, even though I espouse being logical, in this instance, I couldn't help but to feel sorry for this young lady. I couldn't help but to be concerned because here she is counting out nickels and dimes in an effort to reach the amount of money that she needed for gas. And to make it worse, the cashier was not nice. He was not nice. He wasn't nice in the way that he handled her. He wasn't nice in the tone that he took with her. And so as she was counting, I kind of leaned over and said, "You okay? You got it?" And in the smallest, and I'd say the most fearful voice, she says, "Yes, I'm okay. I got it." And so the man begins to take the change and rake the change toward his hand and to put it in the cash register. And I was livid. Hear me when I say I was absolutely livid. But as I mentioned, I'm a person that espouses composure. So instead of making this a big to-do, I decided that I was going to aid and assist this young lady. So when I went to pay for the snacks that Kira had, I think I had a bag of chips and a soda. I told the cashier to add $10 more to the pump for that young lady. Not because I felt so sorry for her, but because in that instance, she needed to know that there was someone somewhere that was willing to help. She needed to know that she wasn't alone in the things that she was going through. You got to understand that at one point I was homeless. And like I mentioned all the time, man, my homeboys in college, when they found out, they made sure I had a place to stay for however long I needed it. Until I got up on my feet, man, they was there for me. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with taking the opportunity to help somebody if they need it. And from what I saw, she absolutely needed it. So what I wanted to do was make sure that whatever it was that she was dealing with, that she'd be able to come off the winner in the end. And so after I paid for it, I went on out and I went over to her. I got her attention first because I didn't want to startle her. And then I asked her, I said, how much did you pay for? And she said $11. And I said, no, ma'am, it's 21. I added $10 to it. Small amount, but every little bit helps. And then I walk off and I tell her, and you have a good day. I get in my car and I pull off. Kira's already in the car waiting on me. And my daughter looks over at me and she says, Daddy, that was so sweet. And I told her, I said, baby, here's the thing. A lot of times we complain about things and difficulties and problems that we face. But there are individuals in the world that are facing difficulties much, much larger than anything that we face. We are blessed. And because we are blessed, we should be able to share our blessing with those around us. I just wanted to share that with you all. Look, let me catch this bus, man. Y'all know I love you. Peace.